Get your copy of The Royal Mindset by using the link below.
Today's video is about autonomy, this idea that we have personal control over our lives. I made a short recording on this last week where I was talking about free will, and I didn't release the video because I wasn't completely happy with, I suppose, my understanding of free will. So I went and researched it a little bit more. Free will is this idea that we have control over our lives, that we know and have, I suppose, influence over what happens in our day-to-day being. Now, I cannot promise anyone that we have free will necessarily, that we have this control, and there's a big argument that people don't have free will. But I do believe it is very important that we as individuals think we have free will, that we believe for ourselves that we can influence our lives, make good decisions, and I suppose have processes that we are in control of that will lead to positive outcomes. Because if we don't believe in our own ability to have a positive outcome through our choices and our actions, then we will become a lot less responsible and a lot less, let's say, a lot less inclined to act positively. So therefore, I think it's incredibly important to believe that you have free will and that you have autonomy. And this brings me on to, I suppose, a really important chapter in the book of the Royal Mindset: autonomy in general. The definition for autonomy is freedom from external control or influence. Now, I mean, when we have autonomy, that no one tells you what to eat in a modern society. Nobody tells you what to wear, nobody tells you where to live or what to do. So if you have money, for example, you can really do whatever you like in the modern world. But even if you don't have money, say if you're just turned 18, you're still living with your parents, or maybe you've just moved out and you're living in a rented accommodation, or you're actually older and you live in your own house, nobody is telling you what to do. This might sound like a simple point, but people often say that they're influenced by advertising, they're influenced by friends, they're influenced by peers and family, and that therefore they make poor life decisions. And I just think that this argument is really nonsense, that the idea that we get influence on these little things and that we don't have control. I think it's lunacy to believe that we don't have control and that we don't have choice. I believe we do have autonomy, and we have more autonomy now than anyone else has ever had in the history of humankind. In the past, there would have been slaves who wouldn't have had autonomy. There would have been people who had, I suppose, people above them in power. There would have been a lot more control in religion on the ordinary people, and the same with lords, feudal systems, etc., etc. Wherever you think, the caste system, for example, in India, tribal systems in Native American countries, there was always someone who was above you unless you were the absolute king. And of course, that was only a handful of people. And then, of course, I also believe that we have more autonomy and choice than kings, simply because we have access to more materials, to more food, substances, to more choice in all things than a king would have had back in the day. And this goes back to an earlier video and an earlier chapter in the book. It definitely is my opinion that we enjoy freedom on a level unimaginable from the past, of past people. Kings of the past enjoyed full autonomy but had less choice than we did. And if we take this all, looking at it all together from a bigger perspective, we enjoy unparalleled autonomy, and yet as a nation of people in the first world, as a group of people, we decide to make bad choices all the time. I see this now in the city where I'm living at the moment, in Vienna. I see bad choices being made everywhere. Everywhere I see smokers. Everywhere I see people who binge drink alcohol every other day. Everywhere I see people who are choosing to eat the wrong food and are living a bad lifestyle. And we have the autonomy. We have the choice. Only you can decide what you eat, what you put in your mouth. You decide that. You decide what to buy. You walk into any shop here and there's fantastic food on offer. Great produce. Stuff that people would have dreamed of eating back in the day. Such high quality food that was really a rare something that people didn't have back in the day and would have given a lot to have. And we have it, and we just walk past it and buy the processed food, the food that is going to lead to obesity, is going to lead to such damaging circumstances for you. And to think that people think that they're not in control, that they don't have free will, is just such a rubbish argument, in my opinion. You just need to see it for what it is. You're the one who's responsible for what you eat. You're the one who's responsible for what you do, for what you smoke, for what you consume, what content you read, the way you set up your mind by looking at things from a different mindset. You decide all of these things. You have that autonomy. There's no king telling you what to do. No one tells you what job you should work. No one tells you what clothes you should wear, what you should do in the day. Yeah, there's going to be a few societal norms that kind of help us be normal. These are important, but no one at the end of the day really has that control over you. Of course, if you're under 18, you're going to be under the custody of your parents, under their authority. But once you're over 18, you have that control. But you need to realize it. You need to have this idea that you can be the best version of yourself. I think I've been lucky in the sense that I've always had some feeling of this, especially in the last 5-6 years. I've become very conscious of it. But a lot of people never really realize that they have this opportunity in their lives. I know there's a few of you listening to the channel quite regularly, and I'm very proud and very happy and very glad of your support. Very, very encouraged by your regular listenership. And I hope that these videos are giving you some degree of motivation in your lives to go and do the things that mean something to you, to go and change that little aspect of your lives where you can improve, where you can really make a difference for your future, for yourself, for your families, for your future families. Doing the little things that'll increase your life, increase your mental health, increase your physical health, and therefore your overall well-being. Because these things are all certainly linked in so many complex ways. But if you do all the easy things, you really avoid all the difficult complexities and complications that come later on in life, when you have illnesses that you could have avoided, when you have mental issues that really just stem from poor decision making in the past. It's incredible the amount of people over here who I meet, and they just have one little thing that's wrong and their life is thrown upside down. It's really amazing. Like, you can literally just go off the path in one direction and you hit some obstacle. I have a sort of metaphor for this. It's like being the captain of a ship. If you're sailing your boat, you need to always sail it through waters where there are no rocks, where there are no icebergs, where there are no obstructions, where there are no whirlpools, no thunderstorms. So you can sail your boat perfectly fine around the world. But if you don't read the maps, if you don't look ahead and see where other sailors have crashed, where other sailors have been killed, if you don't heed the warnings, then you will end up like those sailors. We all know it's bad to smoke, and yet so many people still decide to pick up smoking just because they want to give it a go, because why not? Man's will is his kingdom, and often his hell, and he alone decides. It's one of my favourite quotes. It's from one of the Karl May books, which I'll probably start to introduce slowly into the channel, since they have a lot of, I suppose, influence on some of my writing in my book. Karl May was a German author. He wrote fiction, but the fiction is written in a manner that is very lifelike, in the sense that it's set in real countries, not with real people, but certainly with events that you could really imagine happening. And there's a main character who essentially is a perfect character. He's a bit like the good king from my book. He's able to do everything in a level where he maintains his honor, but also is able to pursue goals where he does everything correctly in a manner that you yourself would love to be able to do. It's like a perfect character, perhaps a bit unrealistic, but very motivational. And this character has got autonomy. He knows that he commands his life. No one can tell him what to do. No one can stop him when he wants to do something. No one can force him into a corner. He always is able to save himself, save his friends. He's always able to do the right thing. Why is he able to do these things? Because he's got a strong sense of worth, of direction in his life, of ability, self-worth. He has a strong faith, and he knows that he can carry himself through any obstacle, or he will die trying, but he will do the right thing. It's a very kind of Cavalier style way of thinking that we would have had in the 19th century. Perhaps you see it in these older films. This idea of the gentleman who would do everything that was, I suppose, in line with his honour. It's kind of a masculinity that we don't perhaps see that much anymore. Or if we don't see it, at least it was very present in literature. It's a kind of a mindset that I think is very inspiring and that we don't talk about enough anymore. I'm going to try and have some sort of a series on it on the YouTube channel where I describe the characters from these books, just in case it interests some of you, where I got some of my ideas from. It definitely has formed a lot of the ways I think. I had a big moment in school a couple of years ago where people were complaining about something that was going on. They might have been complaining about the quality of teaching or the amount of work that was being assigned. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to try and do things as well as I can, the best of my ability, but also not complain. I learned from a young age, I suppose, not to complain, just to get on with things, just to kind of shoulder on, push through it and get out the other side. While others were complaining, I was doing the work. I had it finished so much quicker than anyone else. I was able to go and do extra things in the day. I was able to go play sport. I was able to meet other friends, work on skills, go cycling, do weight training. I was able to do all these other things while other people were complaining, whining, moaning. And this was all because I read these books and I seemed to kind of get an inspiration from them. I think this is something that perhaps isn't taught, isn't shown to people, isn't shown as a way of living. And to a degree, a lot of these good traits I got from my parents and from my raising, but a lot of it too is from the literature that I consume. And I still consume it today. Thankfully, the range of books is very broad that this man wrote, and there's many books I haven't read yet, and each book somehow manages to be consistent. The character is always able to find a way out with the most creative ways imaginable. There's always a solution. This is why I want to perhaps become a diplomat when I'm older. At the moment, I'm trying to get involved with the Irish embassy here in Vienna. I've already met a few diplomats. I've had a few conversations with them. I know it's difficult to become a diplomat, simply because there's a high demand for the places. But it certainly is a goal that I'm trying to strive towards. In the same way that I also want to become someone who's able to provide positivity in mindset teaching. And this is why I'm also doing the channel, partly because I want to improve my public speaking, but because I want to improve my skills in this area. So it's just a kind of a lifestyle I want to lead. This idea that you can attack every problem with a positive mindset, with your autonomy, knowing that you are in control of how you attack the problem, not putting the blame on someone else, not putting it on the long finger, ignoring it, hiding it. The truth is what matters. There's a great quote. It's on our family crest. You might have seen it on my Instagram if you follow me there. Vincit omnia veritas. The truth conquers all is one translation for this. And it is, at the end of the day, so true. The truth is what matters. There's no hiding from the truth. The truth is universal. You can't just push problems aside and hope that they'll go away. The truth is what matters in all things. So for those people who I see walking around smoking, for the people I see drinking every night, for the people I see, I suppose, putting their life in jeopardy, sailing in waters that have been historically known to destroy ships, to shipwreck people, I just want them to be able to open their eyes and to realise that there's more to life. There's dignity in life. There's an ability, there's courage. There's an ability to live a life where you have honour and respect and enjoyment for the beautiful world that we live in. And you don't need to just seek out short-term highs in the form of whatever that might be. I'm not going to list them all again. I'll make other videos on this. And once you've realised this idea that there's more to life, then you must realise that you have autonomy to change your life. I think people in first world conditions must realise that such autonomy is an amazing gift and cannot be taken for granted. This idea that we're not slaves. Not so long ago there were slaves in first world economies. And now to a degree we've become slaves to other things. We've become slaves to addictive substances. We've become slaves to content that is addictive, to mobile phones that are addictive, to all sorts of different things. Whenever there's a moment where I see someone who I think they can't walk away from that situation that easily, they've become a slave. I mean, to a degree, we're all slaves to different things, but we should be slaves to good things. If we take this concept too far, we could say we're all slaves to water. We all need water, therefore we're slaves to it, that we need it. But I'm just trying to stay on things that are like not normal, like excessive mobile phone usage, excessive video game playing, excessive anything that is perhaps not healthy on a long-term cycle. I had an interesting thought about water the last day. I was trying to think, is water valuable or important? Something that's valuable, you would never throw away any amount of it. If I had a bit of gold in my hand and I threw it away, I wouldn't do it because it's valuable. But if I had water in my hand, I would throw it away because there's so much of it, it's not really that valuable. But without water, I would die. So it is important. So obviously it's to do with the quantities of what's present, and it's a balance. And it's the same thing with how we live our lives. There has to be a balance the way we live. A balance in all that we do. We must understand the truth, the balance, and our own autonomy in this to make our decisions mean something, but also to have respect and honor for ourselves within these things. Again, I'll repeat the quote from the Karl May book. Man's will is his kingdom, and often his hell, and he alone decides. We decide what to do and how we do it. Hopefully I've given, and I hope with time these videos will spread, that I'll give people this mind-opening moment where they'll be able to see the possibilities that they mightn't have seen before, and see the problems that they haven't seen before. This is one of the main aims of the channel, and hopefully more and more people will make their mind their kingdom and not their hell. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.
Get your copy of The Royal Mindset by using the link below.